Football. Yes. NFL Straya. I am your co-host, Jaymz Clements. I'm a guy. You can see my ugly mug on the official NBL Supercoach program. What is it? The panel. That's very fun. A new guest this week. You can see me on the AFL Today Show. You can also see me on NBA Straya, which is back to ruin my life. Fantastic fun. There is a bloke on the other side of this here screen. His name, I don't know. Do you need to know it? Either way, he is a bloke. He is my mate. He is your mate. It's Gaz. Gaz, what's going on?
You of course need to. Sometimes I forget my name, Jim. Particularly after some of the running sessions that I've been doing recently. Did you notice I posted the thing that I've been saying I was going to post for 3 weeks about doing the marathon next week? But yeah, it's made getting up early to watch 3 a.m. games a little bit more spicy. Trying to fit in a run while watching 8 hours of uninterrupted football. It's been good.
Nice. I'm vibing on that. It's just weird. I don't feel like I ever say your full name, so that's all right. Anyway. This is the Week 5 preview show, the Week 4 wrap, as it were. And you know us here at NFL Straya, the bloody season doesn't start till Week 4, they reckon. What they always say. When I say they, I mean us. But not a giant amount of news. Like, we've just got a smattering of injuries. We've still got a couple of teams that are looking awesome, a couple of teams that look stanky. But a lot of fun games this weekend as well. So that was cool. So we're going to wrap up Week 4 for you. Got some quick yeah-nahs. We've got our weekly awards as per usual. And we'll set you up for Week 5. How good is that? Isn't that easy? I'll tell you what, it's bloody easy. So let's get into it. Episode 104, I believe, of NFL Straya. I hope so. Let's go! I told all y'all. Business decisions. G'day, this is Antonio Pierce again, and you're listening to NFL Straya. Never lost! All right, guys. Big week. Big week. A fun week, I reckon. So, peek behind the curtain. Day off work again today. It's school holidays. So, I've taken 2 Tuesdays and the 2 Fridays off so I can look after the squid. That's also strategic because there's a lot of football to watch on Tuesdays and Fridays, you see. So they're just like, he knows all the teams now. He's just like, this is great. And he's like, today, Dad, this is the highest score I've seen in an NFL game. And I'm like, that's about right. I'll pay that. You also just watched a really fun one. And this was kind of it. The early slate of games, guys, were awesome fun. I'm just bleary-eyed at like 4 8. Well, I got up at like 3.
Yep.
And all right, no good. Heard something from the squids, checked, came back, went, right, now I've got to do this. And by the time this is all going on, the squid pops off again, the baby squid. I'm like, this sucks. All I want to be doing is laying in here with like one headphone in my in the old schnoggin, watching this. And so I don't get into it like basically until 4. And by that point, we're absolutely flying. Like, it was awesome. Like, that early slate was great.
Some of our games were over, Jim.
Exactly. Some teams weren't doing very well. But we had like Muff Pump week. We had Don't Return That, What Are You Doing week, and Unsportsmanlike Calls week.
Wild.
The tauntings. Are we serious? I'm like, there was 3, I reckon, over the weekend. We're like, don't call. What are you doing? Oh, God. We're here to have fun. I thought the NFL was just kind of like, look, don't shoot your opponent. Don't show them up. And we're good. And now it's if you look at a dude, unsportsmanlike flag, and you're like, ugh, knob ends. That's piss week. Like,
there was a couple. I think it's the bit that got me, I guess, is the imbalance, Jim. About there was fines from last week where someone got run off the field into the bench. Happened in the Eagles game. The player who did that was a $5,000 fine. There was the hit, the helmet, the thing that made someone concussed and out for this week was a $5,000 fine. Taunting, 16 grand, Jim.
It's chaos.
Neighbours, what was Neighbours? It was like 15, 16 grand for pretending to shoot into the crowd. Now, obviously, you shouldn't do that, particularly in America. It's probably not the greatest thing to do to show the kids. You know what also isn't the good thing to show the kids, Jim? When a player's there without a helmet on, probably don't dive into them. I feel like that should be more, should cost you more than an air I don't know, mate. 16 grand to 5 grand is a little bit of a fucking imbalance.
I'll tell you that. You should also probably turn your mic down. I feel like you're peaking pretty hardcore.
Oh.
There you go. Anyway, it was just a pain in the ass. And I was like, every time you sort of like see a touchdown, see something happen, he's like, don't celebrate too hard on the fly. Oh, he's gone and done it. It just stinks. Let him have fun. It's awesome. Meanwhile, you've got like, even with like, defensive touchdown, just let him go off chop. Like, this is one of the things I hate about refs, about whether it be NBA, AFL, NFL, doesn't matter. Like, no one's there to see you. Just shush. Like the grand final, the AFL grand finals on the weekend, the coolest part was, apart from like a couple of bodgy free kicks here and there and a weird 50-meter penalty, no one cared. It's just like,
let them play.
No one noticed the refs, and that's the best way to do it. Anyway, so after a week that had a like fair whack of chaos floating around, we've only got, what is that, 2 remaining 4-0 teams, which is pretty remarkable. We'll talk about them in year nars, whether or not we believe in them. Do you believe? I believe. And I think we've only got 1 0-4 team. Is that right? The Jacksonville Jaguars. So, yeah, we might talk about them a little bit more as well. It was also the week of Justin Jefferson catches. He had a couple of absolute bloody crackers, which I...
Toe tapping.
There was one where he didn't get that, but he thinks he did, so he probably did. And he did. Slow mo. It was bloody good. Injuries, Rashee Rice. God damn. Yeah, I guess that might be the other bit of news. Everybody's fantasy season is off the rails.
Fucked.
Right? Like everybody.
Absolutely fucked. Yeah.
I've gotten through like unscathed. Like buy a lottery ticket or something because you're on a winner. Like, it is ridiculous. One of my teams is basically out 4 starters. I'm like, okay, cool. This is just, I'm over. I'll pack her up in week 4. We're done.
Yep.
But Rashee Rice out with a suspected ACL, but they still don't know the extent of the damage, which is pretty weird. So we're still waiting on actual confirmation. That'll probably come out by the time the show actually goes live. Christian Watson did an ankle.
I don't think we should gloss over that, Jim. His knee was snapped by Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I'm going to get to that. That's it. I'm going to lead into that later. So, like,
sorry.
Circumstances of it were horrible. Like, Patrick Mahomes turns his back and like just falls.
Yep.
Into his teammate. Not ideal, I'm saying. No. Christian Watson had an ankle. I think Trey Hendrickson hurt an ankle or something as well. He sort of limped off late, which is bad news for the Bengals. And Taysom Hill basically came in, helped the Saints win that game, and then went out.
Then you're out.
Wait, no, they lost that game. He helped them get up in that game.
And then lost. Yeah.
Oh, God.
And lost him and the game.
It really did. It was a weird week, a strange week, but it was a great week 4. Once we get to our tips and picks, I'll tell you how great it was for you, mate, Jim. Outside of that, I think Will Levis hurt his arm today as well. Yep. Shoulder, wasn't it? And was replaced by Mason Rudolph. They came out after it, and so Callahan said he's probably fine. He's still our QB if he's healthy. And everyone's like, that's probably a good excuse then if he's not. Just so. Right, let's wrap some games. Week 4. NFL Straya's Week 4 wraps. Hey, remember that Dallas-New York Giants game on Friday, guys?
I kind of don't want to, but I still do.
20-15. Dak was fine. It felt like the Giants were just always still just there. And
they could have won this, Jim. I think that was the most frustrating thing, is that they definitely could have and should have won this if they could punch the ball in. They got regularly into field goal range. They were in the red zone and just couldn't do anything. They ended up with 26 rush yards, Jim, against the worst running defense in the league.
Not great. Well, actually, speaking of injuries, like Micah Parsons was one I forgot to chuck on there.
Yeah, 100%.
He has an ankle. He's unlikely to play this week.
Yep.
And DeMarcus Lawrence is still out as well, right? So, I think he's got a Liz Frank injury. So it's just ooh, that's just not great for a defense that stinks already. Which is weird. But
look at from the whole one of the storylines is both Neighbours and Danny Dimes. So Neighbours was just once again a ridiculous target for Danny Dimes, just doing everything that he wanted. I think the first reception that he made, he pretty much juked the defender out of his shoes and then just took it like 40 yards. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a long day for the Dallas secondary. there are a couple of key drops for Danny Dimes deep, but really he's completed, I think it's, 2 out of 19, something like passes over 20 yards for the season. And the stat that actually came up from a Giants webpage is that he's now over 600 days since he's passed a touchdown at home.
That's wild.
Yeah, because obviously with the injury and all this sort of stuff in front of his home fans. So I think there may have been a game where he scored against the Jets, but not home fans. So yeah, it's fucking. Where do you go? Oh, there's all of the calls to bench Danny. Where are you going? You're paying him a shit ton of money. You don't have a better chance with Drew Lock or DeVito. So see if he plays into the season. Season's not dead yet. But as we'll touch on how some of the other teams in the East are going,
You do get a lot more Italian with Tommy DeVito.
Yeah. These ones, Jim. These ones.
Maybe that just helps the Giants fans feel better about themselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, 26 rushing yards for the Giants is just hilarious. It's like,
pretty fucking gross.
So that was a wildly forgettable game. Cincy, finally on the board. 34-24. They beat the Panthers in Carolina. Again, this was kind of fun. Like, talk about red zone games. You're like, if this would just pop up, you're like, hey, great uniform matchup. Loved it. And then you're just like, oh, also, I don't care about this game. Can we just not red zone? Come on, man. They've got this. They're fine. Really good balanced offense for the Bengals. Obviously, they had everybody involved, right? You had Moss and Brown running. I think they both got touchdowns. Chase had a touchdown. They were looking good. Burrow was fine. He had 22 of 31. He did also just try, go. You never go full Joe Burrow, and he went full Joe Burrow. He's like, I reckon I can make this pass. He couldn't make that pass. The thing was, they just went, if you just actually get a third down, we're laughing. And they went 7 of 13, not bloody bad. Their D still needs a bit of work. I mean, this is it. Andy Dalton. How do you go back? You can't go back. They just look so calm and collected and just better with him under center. He was fine again too. Love the red rifle.
Yep.
Racist, but still. Good stuff. Cincy, 1-3. We'll talk about him again later. Denver Jets, this game sucked. 10-9.
Dude, the expressions on the sideline from the Jets sideline were amazing.
It's always a great one when they cut to the crowd and they're all in the see-through ponchos. And it's weird. It's real weird. That's gross. It's like everyone was miserable, and Bo Nix was miserable as well. He had a miserable game, but he threw his first touchdown. It was a dime to Cortland Sutton as well. So that was nice. It was about the only nice thing in this game, though, guys, because the rest of it stunk. Bo Nix had 60 yards. 60.
So Aaron Rodgers lost to a guy who had negative passing yards after the first half, Jim.
It was amazing. He was negative. Absolutely amazing. The crazy part was he ended on 60 yards. Cortland Sutton had 60 yards to finish the game.
Yep.
It's wild. It's absolutely ridiculous. I loved it.
And I think it's Aaron Rodgers' first loss without passing for a touchdown in his career.
225 for him. He got sacked a bunch as well, and that was kind of the thing for Denver, right? They were on point. He looked rattled. He was scrambling, getting picked up, just dumped, just getting legged, and you're like, oh, this is not fun.
No.
And Breece Hall got 10 carries for 4 yards. It was just they couldn't do anything. Braylon Allen was way better. You're like, that's probably not great. What are we doing here? Javonte Williams was handy, so was McLaughlin. So it was a lot of on-the-ground stuff, as you'd expect from a rain game.
But I didn't see a lot of this leading because obviously, red zone means that you don't see a lot of highlights in this sort of game. But towards the end when it was, it was at, I think I saw it at 7-9 or whatever it was. I'm like, oh, it's coming up the last couple of drives. We'll see it. It got to 10-9. And it was all set up for, this is the one, right? Rodgers, he had plenty of time. Get him into field goal range. Here we go. But then the passes that he was making, he was off with his receivers.
Oh, yeah.
They were facing the wrong direction when he was launching, and not on a turnaround route. It was just they were not expecting the ball to come, or he was passing to the ground because he was expecting the receiver to come back and they weren't. It was just fucking wild that maybe a ayahuasca retreat, missing half of training camp and not being on the same page with your receivers isn't right? Like last week we saw them click. We thought it'd take a little bit longer, and they definitely regressed this week.
Yeah, he hates Garrett Wilson. It was also like fun to see Mike Williams back and doing Mike Williams things, which is where he moves the ball, he jumps up and gets pass interference. It's like the classic Mike Williams. It's a beautiful thing sometimes.
Not great if he's on your fantasy team, and none of those stats count.
But this is it. It's like one of the chaos things in this game was the end. Like Will Lutz is a field goal. And then the Jets, Greg the Leg, misses a field goal that would have basically won it. So it was bizarre. It was a weird one. And like the fact that it was 10-9 as it came down, you're like, oh, I can't believe the Jets are going to pull this out their ass. And Greg the Leg missed it. So sucked in.
See you later.
Anyway, Saints, Falcons. I love a good NFC matchup. So as I've said time and time before on this show, I went to one of these games and there is such an awesome vibe, Saints Falcons. Like it's bizarre. You'd never like if you hadn't really looked into it at all, you'd never would have thought it. But they hate each other. And if you look at Twitter, there's a million punch-ons after the game. You're like, sure, some of it's Falcons on Falcons, some of it's Saints on Saints, some of it's Saints versus Falcons, but some of them are wildly brutal. You're like, hey, you do get their head stomped. You're like, no. Shit.
But I will watch it. I watch all of them, Jim. I watch all of them.
Yes. Anyway, Younghoe Koo, 58-yard game winner, though. This was absolutely awesome. And with 2 seconds left, it's really good when you've got him as your fantasy kicker as well, I guess. It came off a really crazy pass interference on at Abo, right? And it's like, they were picking on him all game. There was like 3 Kirk Cousins incompletions, and they still kick it, and they get the win. It was crazy. Kamara had like the touchdown that basically put the Saints ahead with like a minute to go, and you're like, oh my God, they're going to do it. And the Falcons just, Younghoe Koo just goes, check this out. Bang.
What I love is about the attempted game-winning drive. I always have this is the range line. The range line. This is where they've got to get. And then they didn't make it to Koo's range line by quite a bit. It was like 5 yards. And like, oh shit. Here we go. It's very far past his best. And fucking nailed it. And it looked he was decently through.
So the Falcons didn't score an offensive touchdown, and they won this game. So they scored 26 points. None of it was offensive touchdowns. They had 4 field goals for Koo. They had a pick 6, and they had the weird fumbled return that they just jumped on, like at the start of the game. Oh God, what's happening? So absolute chaos. The shine.
As someone who has him in fantasy league, fucking Pitts didn't trouble the scorers.
Well, literally didn't.
Literally didn't fucking donuts.
I also loved it. So Raheem Morris came out. I was like, yeah, I hate stats nerds. Stats are for nerds. And you're like, yeah, they are.
They are. Quite literally.
You should maybe pay attention to them sometimes though. And Pitts, what are you doing? Anyway, Atlanta, weird one. Bijan Robinson really good in the first half. Then they went away from him. I'm like watching this going, come on, man. Like, my first round pick. You're killing me. So they got a big case of the Arthur Smiths. But anyway, that stunk. But good win for Atlanta. Feeling great. Saints 2-2. You're like, yep, that's the Dennis Allen we know and love.
Yep.
Hey, Minnesota kicked the crap out of Green Bay, 31-29. They're up 28-0.
Wow.
Jordan Love came back. He sort of worked his way back into the game as you'd expect. But when you're in a 28-0 hole, it's pretty hard to climb all the way back. But they almost did. They had a game like basically they got it back to that 2-point game, 31-29, as I said, and had to do an onside kick. Basically, they've fucked the onside kicks, haven't they, guys? It sucks.
Yeah, they have.
It's never going to work. Oh, you can only do it in the fourth quarter. And
you have to tell them if you've got a trailing and they'll find a way. Look, when they did that helicopter onside kick a few years ago, It'll be a game, but I nearly messaged you on Sunday night Sunday, whenever they announced Jordan Love was playing, and I'm like, oh fuck, that might tip the scales here. I might change it, and then I forgot, and then I saw the score at 28-0, and I was like, I'm fucking glad I didn't change my tip. And then they came storming back, and I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. So they held on.
With that in mind, I think I still bet Minnesota, even though I think on our show I'd tipped Green Bay, and I had mentioned to you that I wanted to change my tips. I just never did. And so lost out.
Yeah.
They're still very close. So what do you?
It's a fun division. It's a fun division. There's a lot going on.
Darnold just doing the damn thing. Jefferson's catching everything. Like, it was amazing though, watching that last drive for Green Bay where it's like, bang, 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 done, touchdown. You're like, just do that every time. What are we doing? Just Jordan Love looked awesome. So anyway, I think that's the sort of get back in the swing of things game anyway. If you lose it, it sucks that you're at home to a division rival, but, you know, at least you sort of look at that and go, that was sick.
There's also that element for, I mean, Aaron Jones put up 140 yards on the ground. That's, 140 yards from scrimmage. So, I mean, there's that kind of, so you want to replace me, do you? So that's always a nice one.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame if he was the final and fifth person in your all touchdowns across a bunch of the early games multi.
Didn't score.
It'd be a real shame at $91.50, guys.
Oh, fuck.
Anyway, should be right. Pittsburgh 24, Indy 27. Weird one. Flacco, he's back.
How is he back, Jim? How?
Michael Myers at this point. It's amazing.
Jesus.
Goes out, and Flacco holds them together up 17-0. They nearly cooked it, but they held on. It was 17-0, then it was 17-10, then it was 24-17. Then it was like, boom. After they got up there 24-17, there was like a huge 5.5-minute drive that they had in the fourth quarter that basically salted it away. And the defense got the last stop just to keep them fine. But I don't know, Justin Fields was good. The defense was good for Pittsburgh. Yep. It's just when they go down, you just look at this and go, oh, they're fucked. Like, it's just so hard for them to score. Like, they had two shitty fumbles. Like, Pickens had a fumble. Justin Fields had a fumble. Fields was fucking sacked 4 times as well by this weird Indy defense. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Jonathan Taylor. I'm just
Jonathan
saying.
Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. There you go. Get a fucking sweet bowl cut. Fields, fine. Jonathan Taylor, really handy again. And you're like, this is kind of the thing with Indy. Like, if Anthony Richardson's not giving the other team the ball, you're in all these fucking games all of a sudden. So here we go. Flacco, enjoyed that. One of the great kit matchups as well. Absolutely loved it. That was beautiful. Pittsburgh from 3-0 to 3-1. Still could have won this game, but when they get down, that's always going to be your concern, right? So,
yep.
Jacksonville, Houston. Speaking of teams getting down, Houston like, do not care. Check this out. That's Nico Collins. I'll throw it to him 1 million times. And you're like, that's sick. 24-20, they beat the Jags. Jags thought they had the win. CJ Stroud went, fuck off, idiots. No chance. Living dangerously though, the Texans. Like, it feels like this is a lot of their games. Like,
they struck like they weren't looking great, Jim.
Oh yeah.
You're relying on your rush game on Cam Akers. I mean, you're going to be flying close to the wind.
Well, was it Ogunbowale to win it with 18 seconds left? It was awesome. But the problem was the Texans had 5 straight possessions of punts leading up to it. You're like, just nothing winner. And you're like, oh, that's good. But that's kind of the thing. CJ Stroud, you're just like, I kind of just trust him to pull it out of his ass at this point. You're just like, that's just what they keep on doing. Like, they had a shit one last week. You get that on the big jobs. But 151 yards for Nico Collins. He was unreal. CJ had 345 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns. He was awesome. Flip side, the Jags are shit. Trevor Lawrence he's now 9 straight losses, which is pretty crazy. He completed 54.5% of his passes for 169 yards. And like, as we've said time and time again on this here program, he's a red zone QB. When they cut to him in red zone, you're like, fuck, that was awesome.
That's awesome.
Watch the rest of you like, he just missed that dude by 10 foot. What are you doing? Jesus Christ, just sailing over the top of dudes' heads left, right, and center. You're like, he's shit. Like, what is this? Cut your hair. Like, at what point?
Cut your hair, you hippie.
Like, Joe Burrow's like, figured this out. So, what point do we go, Trevor Lawrence? Mate, I don't care. Like, you just got to do something about that. I'm all for the flying locks. I'm all for it. But if you're fucking 0-9 in your last 9 games, you've got to change something up. Like, it's not your jocks and your socks at this point. It's, you got to just fucking, I don't know, even just like the bowl cut.
Just something.
Sick ponytail or something with like the remnants of it. Like, just full blown fucking mohawk that goes, I reckon that'd be sick. Like, let's fucking go. But yeah, it's not working. Like, Christian Kirk was good. BJT.
Yeah.
BTJ. Brian
BTJ.
BJT. There you go. And they were both really good, but Trevor Lawrence kept fucking missing them. Like, they're wide open. They had a couple of like weird fucking just penalties as well that fucked them up. But at the same time, when you're up and you're like winning, you should just win some of these games.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rams, Chicago, 24-18. Da Bears. That was good. DeAndre Swift is still alive. He had a
fucking cracker.
His scramble touchdown where he sort of gets through the line. It looked like almost a computer game where some of the Rams defenders are like jumping, but he's like already 5 yards past them. You're like, what the? Yeah. Is it glitching? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And he's just like gone.
That's the Swift of old, mate. That's yeah.
But it was progress for the Bears. They had back-to-back touchdown drives. You're like, that's what we kind of expected.
Yeah.
What we talked about this last week. I think you ended up picking Chicago. I ended up betting on Chicago. This is another one of my ones that I'm like, who did I pick in the fucking show? I can't remember. And just ended up betting on the one. I'm just like Chicago. And Stafford looked all out of sorts. They got to him a bunch. And when you get to Matt Stafford, what happens?
If
he doesn't have Cooper Kupp,
they're rattled. Yeah. I mean, Atwell's the key there now, and which is sad. I mean, Kyron's still putting up numbers. He's fucking wild. But yeah, that game from Swift, it's clearly what he had 93 rushing and 72 passing. So that's clearly his best game as a Bear. Maybe he's finally finding his space in this offense. And
it also meant that the pressure was off Caleb Williams. Like when the run game actually works, he can actually just sort of have a little bit more time to process shit. So that was really good. And also the Aussie, Torrey Taylor, fucking smashed it. I'll get to him later. He had a great game.
There's still a problem. There's still definitely a problem when you've got DJ, Rome, and Keenan Allen as your third wide receiver, and you're still only putting up, 29, 39, 52 yards to those three weapons in an entire game.
And it gets like this Rams defense is all sorts of banged up anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Keenan Allen coming back from an injury, Rome coming off what was a bit of a banged up injury last week. Like the fact that they all played was a bit of a surprise. And again, DJ Moore getting in for the touchdown and fucking Aaron Jones letting me down. I'm still angry. Anyway, Philly, Tampa Bay.
Well,
this is fun. 33-16. Gaz, take it away.
I've had some time now to I'm not as angry. You know what happened last time we lost, Jim? It was Monday Night Football, and I came in steaming. I've had 24 hours to recuperate. But this we were trying to work out whether it was going to be the Baker that we saw last week was him regressing to the mean, or there was a obliteration, and it was what's the word I'm looking for?
Capitulation.
Yeah, I don't know. It was abnormal, and the Baker that we saw for the first couple of weeks was what it was. But they're a bit of a bogey team for us, Jim. They knocked us off in the playoffs last year, and it was fucking hot as balls. It felt like 40 degrees because there was a hurricane coming in, Jim. It was messing with everything. So the goal would be to get off the field, and Baker came out and quick passes marched down the field, and before I'd even turned the game on, it was 10 past 3, and it was already 7-0 to Tampa Bay. Eagles stalled, didn't do shit on 4 plays, and Tampa Bay got the ball back and marched back down the field and scored again, and all of a sudden it's 14-zip, and they just never looked back. Eagles were without AJ, Smitty, Lane Johnson, Britton Covey, all that going into this game, and then the defense couldn't get off the field. So when you do get off the field, you want to keep your offense on there, and that wasn't happening. We had another Dalen Hurts fumble. There was a punt that we needed to return, Jim, and you know what we did? We pushed the gunner into Cooper DeJean and fumbled the fucking ball. So they got it back then too. So the poor defense were on the field for a bunch of time. Baker and Evans and Otten and Godwin just marched down the field. They just did what they want for the whole fucking game. It was really depressing. And the Eagles limp into a bye to get healthy. There was a lot of players going off during this game. You're thinking like it's about 40 degrees. Yeah, all right, we'll see. They're playing in helmets and pads. That's got to suck. But there were so many players going off with IVs going straight to the locker room. Great. It was not great for all involved. So Tampa's on song in a really competitive NFC South, and the Eagles are going to limp to the bye at 2-2 and hope to get healthy and come back after that.
You are much more measured than I expect you to be, but at the same time, that was just such an ass kicking from like start to finish. You're like, what else could we do? We were just shit. So there you go.
It was hard to get angry. They couldn't. By the time they started to move the ball again, and there was some good, but they were playing. His touchdown pass was to Paris Campbell, who was on the practice squad last week, right? It was. Don't get me wrong, Saquon was fucking awesome again, right? Busting out long runs. Trying to put the team on his back. So was Dallas Goedert. Quinion Mitchell is a bright spot in that secondary. Some pass breakup against Mike Evans, which is never easy. Who's just going to come over the top of you, having a cracking rookie season. But the defensive line couldn't get to Baker. Like nothing, just nothing worked.
Yep.
And fucking Tampa Bay were efficient and on song. Got to give it to them. It's making tipping against this NFC South really, really fucking tough.
Oh yeah. Great get right game for Baker. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, 100%.
That was Gaz's team. My team. They were shit. They got smashed by the Niners, and this game was horrible, as expected. Like there was no way I was ever going to like believe, even with like all the injuries the Niners had. I'm like, they're still going to fucking run over. They've still got like one passable receiver in Ayuk. Kittle was playing as well. Purdy came back. You're like, yeah, we're fucked. 30-13. This was over. Like as soon as they were down 10-0. And they were down like 6-0 straight away where you're like, oh, well, we've held them to field goals. And we couldn't score. And you're like, they're fucked. This is just like the story of the Pats season, though. It's like exactly as expected. The Brisket, God love him. Seems like a legend. He's just not a great quarterback, right? So I think they were down 20-0, and they just kept sort of just stuttering, give the ball back. And then there was in pick 6, and you're like, oh, this is fucking over. Messaging with mates of mine back in the States who are Niners fans, and they're just like, this is just sad, Jim. And I'm like, yes, I know. I am very, very aware of that. So it was brutal. And I'm just like, gross, whatever, fuck it. At this point, you start going, Drake May? ? And I'm like, look, I still reckon a couple more weeks. This season's going nowhere anyway. I've been yelling it from the rooftops from the very fucking get-go. And me, I'm a pragmatist, a realist. And 1-3, I bet the Pats under to a point where I pushed it to an alternate line of under 3.5 wins, and I still feel pretty good. Unfortunately, Miami coming up, and I'm like, oh, fuck, we might win that. That sucks. Just some of the horrible turnovers was whatever. It was bullshit. The Pats stink. The defense, there's injuries. The offense is just horrible. The defense, though, just shows you some little sparks where you're like, yeah, cool. We add some more talent to this next year, year after, laughing. But for now, back her up. Hey, the other game was really good. Washington, Arizona. This was fun as.
Wow.
14. I love this. Jaden Daniels. He's my shining light in my fantasy leagues because he's the only one who's fucking healthy. Like it's nuts. 26-30.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. 233 yards, a touchdown. The one interception was like brutal. But at the same time, you're like, the pass was there. He just sailed it just a little bit too high and sucked. What are you going to do? It was his first interception of the season. Amazingly, the Commanders' punt team actually got to do some work this week. Once. First time since week 1. So not bad. Is there a better paying job in the NFL right now than being on the Commanders' special teams? Team? I love that. That's just like.
But what's interesting also is their Zacchaeus was their leading receiver who obviously was off the Falcons, got, let go by the Falcons, played for us, and he was sure the third receiver, fourth receiver. And now he's catching 6 receptions for 85 yards, more than McLaurin, who you expected to be the focal point of this offense. And Jalen Daniels, as you said, 47 on the ground to go with that 233. And he's definitely the most exciting rookie. But are they heading towards the best team in the East, Jim? Like with all these old school guys that they've picked up, old guys they've picked up in the off season. There's Oshie, he likes Jalen Daniels as well, mate. Is there a way? Hang on. Is there a reason the way that these guys are the best in the East? I'm gonna take care of the dog and let you take care of the rest of this.
I will launch into the wrap of this game, but it was really fun because like the way that it started of like back and forth TDs. It is weird just me sitting here talking to no one, but at the same time, this is basically NBA Straya. But 7-7, Marvin Harrison Jr. at one end. Off we go. It was awesome. They gashed the Cards defense, though, from there. And like this is like Dan Quinn sort of just working his magic a little bit and turning this Washington defense into something that actually is working. Like it's good. So that was kind of neat. And for the Cards, it sort of seems if they don't have James Conner working, their offense doesn't work. It's like in their couple of losses, it's like, yeah, if they can't get the run game going, everything falls apart. And like that was messing up with Kyler Murray in a way they went. Washington, yeah, this is a bit of a yeah, nah, but are they the best team in the East? Yeah, nah, yeah. Like, at the moment they are. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Hey, these games suck. Cleveland Raiders 20-16. ST Ruggle. No Crosby, no Devontae Adams. No problems for the Raiders. It was bizarre. Defense was massive. They gashed them on the ground, though. The Browns, again, is what happens. They just look discombobulated. Deshaun Watson's just like, what am I doing? Where am I playing? Who am I? And he's just like, no, I got nothing. Throwing it out of bounds, throwing it in the dirt, getting sacked. It was bad. And they gashed him on the ground with Zamir White and Madison as well, which is kind of nice to see. So I think 150 plus yards, 2 touchdowns for those dudes. I think they combined for like 133. But like a bunch of running. And it was like Antonio Pierce just going, fuck it. I'm not going to rely on Gardner Minshew. Check this out. Crank out the run game. Boom. Ran over the top of Cleveland. And we know the Browns defense on the road, not as imposing at home, so why the fuck not? Anyway, moving on. KC 17-10 over the Chargers. They were down 10-zip. That's 17 straight points. They just keep doing it, guys. I was fucking like vibing on this.
I was hoping they were going to pull it out, Jim, as most people, a lot of people, I'm sure were. And then it just dragged on at that 10-all for a long time. And then you're like, of course they're going to finish this.
Too long. The defense just spent a little bit too much time out there, it felt like, right? It's just like, oh, we're just getting a little bit tired. Meanwhile, Juzzy Herbs has got one fucking working leg and he's still slinging some awesome passes, but it just wasn't quite enough, right? Like he had 27 attempts and he goes for 179 yards. You're like, oh, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards couldn't quite do enough either. And they just couldn't get it cranking. Like they had to break out the old Kelsey out of the garage, the Chiefs, because Rashee Rice goes out. Xavier Worthy had like one massive catch. Was it the longest that Patrick Mahomes has thrown for fucking years at this point, which is pretty crazy to think about. 50.
I completely forgot that Kareem Hunt was on the Chiefs.
Yeah, he only got signed like, 2 weeks ago to practice and suddenly without Pacheco.
He's out there, right?
Carson Steele keeps fumbling, so they're like, piss off, dickhead. So you can go to your sister's wedding now. He's like, but it was last week. It's like, well,
whatever.
Fucking fumbled, idiot. Anyway, they just keep doing it. The defense was good enough to like stymie this like sort of pop gun Chargers attack where they just went, right, what are you going to try to do? Juzzy Herb's got one leg. Beat us in the air. Best of luck. We'll just stop the run game. And away they went. Rice was brutal. Herbs was still getting hit and knocked down where you just like, can just someone look after my boy, please. Mahomes also was sort of being chased, but then they sort of died down in the second half and it just became a grind until they got to the game-winning spot where they're just like, check this out. Now we're going to win the game. And you're like, fucking classic Chiefs is what they do. So it's like, what, in the third last possession it was? And he's like, yes, RGP run. Boom. I forgot.
That'll do.
17-10, Chiefs 4-0. Tight. Well, no. Buffalo. Baltimore. Awesome that game. And then it wasn't. Baltimore just put him to the sword. 35-10, effed him up. How'd they do it? Derrick Henry on the first Ravens play just goes,
what the fuck?
We're off to the races, boys. 87 yards and a cloud of dust. How do you like that? Bang! And off he goes. He's gone. It was awesome. And Baltimore's defense was fantastic as well the rest of the time. They're flying around, just messed up Josh Allen and that Bills offense, which, I mean, this is why I tip Baltimore. I'm just like, they're at home. It's a night game. They're just going to fucking choke the living shit out of this Bills team. Exactly what they did. They're wearing those sick black uniforms.
That was pretty. It's a good looking uniform, Jim.
Terrifying in a night game as well. That's the biggest thing for me. I'm like, you can't, like, I don't want to see that at day. Daylight, nah, purple's fine. Nighttime, give me the black uniforms. That shit is fucking terrifying. Lamar had like this weird up and down game, but he was just really solid and good as well, made good decisions. 35-10, that is an ass kicking.
Yep, and your lead receiver is Justice Hill. Well, that's weird. Cool. But yeah, I mean, like the nearly 200 yards from Des Henry, over 200 on, all purpose. And it was just he was wild. He was just that first breakthrough run. I'm not going to say he looked slow, but it just made everyone trying to chase him who was losing ground look like they were 4-year-olds. Trying to chase the uncle with the ball, just like, we've got ya! Ah! And Des is just like, fucking see you later, pricks. He was gone.
I love this.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was also good to see that we got Josh Johnson into the game as well at the end of that one too, up against Mitch Trubisky, which was pretty fun. It's like $10 to whoever can name all the teams that Josh Johnson has played for.
I definitely can't. It's most of them.
That's what I'm like. Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Cincy, Washington, the Jets, Baltimore, San Francisco, Baltimore again. It's amazing. I love it.
Wow.
Then we had the 2 Monday games. As predicted, one was a stinker, just it sucked, and the other one was fucking electric. So Tennessee 31, Miami 12. Miami were just fucking cooked.
Oh, gross.
Tyler Huntley, he's just not good.
I just said before, I can't believe. I know Tyler Huntley hadn't been named as the starting quarterback when we did our picks, but whoever was starting, how I thought that they were going to match with even a shit Titans team, and they are a shit Titans team. And this was after Levis went down real early, and like we've got the full Mason Rudolph experience, but even between those two quarterbacks, we had 100 yards passing. It was just a fucking stinker of a game.
It really was. Like the first half, like I'm watching with the squid, it's like 9-3. And you're like, yeah. Just we're going full fucking Seattle, Detroit from here on out, buddy. And he's like, okay. And they just sort of had no worries. They got up 22-6 late, and you're like, yeah, pack her up.
I looked at the score. It was the first time I've had to. I'd obviously see that it was pretty one-sided, and then didn't really watch anything of the last quarter because fucking why would you? And I looked at the final score before we jumped on here, and I saw them. They put up 31, and I had to go and look at the play-by-play because, like, fucking how? Looking at the stats line, it was pretty shit. The stats line from the from both the quarterbacks and the rushing from Tennessee, I'm like, how the fuck did you guys put up 31 points?
It's a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
Tajay Spears. So,
yeah.
Job, I guess. And the Dolphins just, Tyler Huntley, no good. Mason Rudolph in for Will Levis after he threw his Will Levis mandated interception on the first drive. Classic. And then got hurt. So, my shoulder's a bit fucked. It's like, yeah, no shit. And then finally, the awesome game, 42-29. Detroit beat Seattle. That was fun as Seattle always in this game. Basically, it felt like they were going touchdown for touchdown at the back half, throughout the third quarter. Like, this is awesome. Electric. I loved it. Goff caught a touchdown, threw 2 touchdowns, didn't throw an incompletion, went 18 of 18. Absolutely insane. Amon-Ra threw the touchdown to Goff. It was awesome. And he got one back later, and he had a sick little dance. That was fun. Gibbs had 2 touchdowns. Monty got in as well. Love a bit of David Montgomery. Jamison Williams is 80-yarder. Well, he had 80 yards on 2 touchdowns, and one of them was awesome. He's just gone. That was unreal. Kenny Walker ran in for 3 for the Seahawks. I'm like, where was this for last week for Zach Charbonnet? What the fuck? DK Metcalf had 104 and got absolutely dogged by the refs on his on one of the sick passes for a touchdown as well, which broke my heart. So he had a touchdown. They called a touchdown. They checked. And it's like, it's a bit short. So fuck you. Let him have it. Come on. But this was really fun. And it's exactly as expected, right? Like, I think going into this, the over-under is just like one of the most punished overs, which is like, even if you got over 52.5, I think, just like fucking fanging this. It's in Detroit. Seattle's defense is all banged up. Detroit's defense is barely existent a lot of the times anyway, apart from the front bit. And for that, Kenny Walker still had 3 touchdowns. Like, holy shit. So
yeah, I had a meeting like during the first half of this, and so I was like, I'm sure I'll catch up. It's some pretty good points up there. And I heard them ranting about, Jared Goff's 15 for 15 and hasn't had an incompletion yet, and we'll see what happens next. And on the very next play, it was a slant route of Jameson Williams run straight through the defense down the sideline, 70-yard touchdown. And all of a sudden, he's like 16 of 16 for 250 yards. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
We'll talk about it again later. But as I said, like the third quarter, quite literally, I just said that it felt like it was going touchdown. It was touchdown, touchdown, punt. And you're like, what? That was 5 straight. That was sick. I'm like, this is awesome. So that was fun. All right, let's do some quick yes. Right. Do we believe? 4-0, Minnesota. Do you believe in it? Yeah, nah.
Kind of do. I
28.
like that. I'm really liking that defense. And I'm really liking what Aaron Jones is doing. And I'm really liking the connection between old mate and Justin Jefferson. Right?
Yeah.
Darnold's just he's got his fourth wind. Fourth? We have to fourth?
Yeah, fourth win in 60 years. Not bad.
Yeah. Not bad.
I do love that. He was the Baker Mayfield, Lamar, Josh Allen class. Sam Darnold, wasn't he? I think. Either way, it's crazy.
My memory does not that good, Jim. I've put too much whiskey through this brain to remember that many years ago.
But still, the mono Sam Darnold that we all knew and love, like it was kind of like it's just fun to see him actually go, I'm actually not shit. And you're like, okay, good. This is actually fine. So I feel okay about it. I'm pretty happy for him. And I kind of believe just because I think the defense is really, really solid.
Yep.
No, if you then look at it and go, oh, they're going to be the, ascendant fucking, legendary Super Bowl winning sort of team. But I don't know. Yeah. So that was Baker, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen.
Oh, Jesus.
Chosen Rosen. That's a bit of a shame. That fucking draft was loaded because then you've also got obviously 28, I think. Is that 28 that he went? Lamar? 32. That's 32. Right. Traded out, I think, from Philly, but I think that was also maybe the Pats passing him a couple of times. Anyway, 4-0 team, the other one. AC, do you believe in...
I mean, we kind of did... We kind of did because they still feel in cruise control. I think that's the running philosophy here is going, you know what? They still feel like they've got so much more to give, right? They don't feel like they've clicked and they're still doing okay. Like they felt in cruise control. They couldn't get shit done in this game. And then, but you kind of always went, oh, they'll get it done. And they did. Like
I will talk about it again later. I'm just getting worried. Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, Xavier Worthy, Noah Gray, and Kelsey. Like, it's just that defense is going to have to do a lot of fucking work. 0-4, are they completely cooked? Pack her up, boys. We're Dunskies, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, dude, it's definitely who's going to take Dougie's job, right? Like, there's no saving it from here. I think once you've got past your third head coach, like T-Law's in a lot of trouble. If they don't have success, like pretty fucking quickly, that's a problem.
$5 a year. Like, what can you do? Like, I mean, it's just going to be brutal. Like, and even if I look at this and go, Dougie P, piss him off. You've got Vrabel and Belichick still out there next year. But for me, Belichick and Vrabel, I can't have them in warm weather climes. For me, they're just cold weather coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway.
Cold weather, cold hearts.
Since he's 1-3, can they do the impossible and still make the playoffs? Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think they definitely can. Based on what we've seen for the last 2 weeks. Like, they started to get it together in the second half last week, and this definitely looked like the offense was starting to click, both the run game and the passing game. So, yeah, look, they're going to run into some division teams that are definitely games that are winnable. So there'll be a couple in there, and I reckon they can come back because there's teams that are up there at the moment, sort of 3-1 teams that we think like we're still talking that the Steelers are going to fall off based on the fact that their second half of their run is fucking brutal. Yep. And there's a few of those that are probably false commodities at the moment, and it gives Cincy there'll be a wild card, but I think they're still a playoff team.
All right, Ravens at home. They then go to the Giants. Not bad.
Yep.
You go to Cleveland. Interesting, but whatever. They host the Eagles, host the Raiders. They can get back on track in that sort of stretch, right? So
yeah, I think so.
5 games. You can win 3 of those. Suddenly you're like 3-5, and you're like, all right, that's all right.
Yep.
3 and oh wait, no. Maybe you have to win a few more of those. Because what are they're 1-3, and if you with the next 5. Yeah, you probably have to win like 4 of those 5, but it's eminently doable the way the Eagles are playing, especially on the road. Who knows?
Yep.
Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year. Yeah, no.
Fucking looks it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, we've got a bit of there was a one game from Harrison Jr. that you were like, oh shit. And like this keeps going, but Kyler didn't do him any favor. He had 40 something yards this week. And who else you got from an offense with when it's such an offensive heavy draft? You know, Neighbours is going well, but you can't say that what he's done is better than what Jalen Daniels has done. He's clearly the best of the rookie QBs to come out or performing the best. So I wouldn't put money on anyone else.
Yeah. And we sort of hit on this with the NFC East, but is it scary having him in the division? And like,
yeah, I think so. I look at they've been sad for a long time, and this is like as a division rival, I feel like they're my least hated. Only because of they've just been like a kick and a puppy, to be fair. Yeah. The Giants, they're definitely overtaking the Giants. The Giants, the rhetoric around Giants fans about how angry and disappointed they are that they missed out on Daniels now. They should have gone after him harder. They never had a chance. Let's be honest.
Do you reckon it was just the Dan Snyder stink? They're pissed off Dan Snyder and they're just like, fucking everything's good again. This is fine.
Yeah. But yeah, probably. And they invested, you know, there's someone who was willing to invest in some stable veterans. You know, Eckler and Ertz and those sort of guys aren't going to set the world on fire at this stage of their career. But, you know, just some not handing the entire run over to rookies. Terry McLaurin hasn't, like he was the focal point of every previous quarterback. And he doesn't need to be now. He just gets to do his thing.
Well, that's fine.
It's good. It's interesting.
And leading into Good Bloke of the Week, Baltimore, like...
That was a pretty strong showing, Jim.
Are they back? Like, my thing is, I don't feel like they ever sort of left. They just had a shit fucking loss to the Raiders out of nowhere. They had Isaiah Likely's toe being a fucking centimetre too long. And, like, that's it. Like,
yeah.
I feel like going into that Bills game, I'm like, why are people believing in the Bills so much and not believing in Baltimore? And I was proven wildly correct. So,
I mean, the Bills had the previous week, the Bills were fun, exciting. Allen was off his fucking head, and you're like, oh, fuck, you know, this could be a really, really good Bills team. And look, Ravens was solid, but there was they were giving up late in games. There was just like, not like the Cowboys game. It was fucking horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They leaked over and garbage time Dak nearly came back. And so, like, you can't do that against the Bills. Yep. And sure enough, they didn't. They came and kicked the shit out of them from start to finish.
Yeah, I love it. I think I had them in the Soupy. I can't even remember what the pick was. Good Bloke of the Week. Who are we buying a beer? Derrick Henry needs one after that awesome run. 190 yards and 24 carries, 2 touchdowns. Had a fumble late as well, but they still scored a tutty off it anyway.
Yep.
Big man touchdown. I love that. And that was awesome. That sprint down the sideline off that first one was fucking, I'm just like off the couch. Just going, that's what? Oh, my God. That was sick. Jaden Daniels completing 81% of his passes. That's pretty good.
Yep.
26-30 this week, 218 and 4 rushing yards to date. That's what he's just doing. It's awesome. He's amazing. And Jared Goff, what a stat line. Catching a touchdown, throwing 2 touchdowns, going 18 of 18. You're taking the piss, mate.
Yep.
And I want to throw in Charles Snowden, who won the game for the Raiders late with the sack on Deshaun that basically fucked them up because the Browns were threatening right at the end of that weird fucky Browns-Raiders game. So he's an undrafted free agent. They didn't have Max Crosby. He basically did the Max Crosby thing. He's played 5 games, guys. Like over a bunch of years. He was in Chicago, he was in Tampa Bay. Boom. He's on this like just fucky weird Raiders team and sacks him and he just gets him. It was awesome. And you're like, that's exactly what Max Crosby would have done. And it was just like a fucking clone. It was really cool. So good on him.
Yep. No, I agree.
Noise. Flog of the week. Old mate, no mates, Patrick Mahomes.
Whew.
That didn't look good.
No.
Turning your back and falling backwards. Not great.
No. And the way that his leg bent, it was a fucking gross injury, Jim.
Oh, yes. It was not fun. So, old mate no mates is usually like one of those ones like get on the bus like, hey, here we go, this fucking guy. Everybody would be like, I'm not going to say anything bad about you, Patrick. What the fuck was that, dickhead? Yeah. Cross, mate. There's like just a low level muttering when he gets on the bus. You're like, fucking all right, maybe not do that again. Jesus.
Maybe they need to sacrifice someone's soul for that. And they're like, oh, you know what, Rashid, you're probably going to be suspended at some point anyway. It's just not right now. So I'm just going to sacrifice you for the karma gods.
Love it. Nick Harris for the Browns. He wiped out the Cooper touchdown, which was sick. It was a dubious call as well. There's a couple of these ones. Like, so I talked about the fucking celebratory, unsportsmanlike taunting ones as well. We had some really fucking bare bonesy bullshit, like holding penalties and stuff called. But yeah, Watson found Cooper for this sick touchdown, and we're coming back. Yeah, it was good. Cooper also fucking bounced one of his fucking chest.
Yep.
Watson hit him.
Not great. There was a couple of some savage drops in a variety of games this week. I mean, I've already touched on the Neighbours one, but
dropsies. And obviously refs who call taunting unsportsmanlike penalties. What are you doing? Just shut up, idiots. There were, the finger guns. Just anyway. Outback Takehouse. It is Tuesday. What are we going to have at Outback? Well, the Squid and I had the day off, so we just went in the backyard. And something had actually torn a possum apart in our front yard. So we'll just have that. Chugging on the possum patties only at Outback. It's pretty fucking gross. I'm like, oh God, that's its innards everywhere. Anyway, today's Flame Grilled Take is the Kansas City Chiefs are obviously fucking frauds, guys. There is this like insane stat where they won their last 10 games by a combined 60 points. Like just
average of less than a touchdown.
They've not blown out anybody. Like it's weird. And I feel like the precipice will sort of hit second half of this year where it's like last year they sort of scummed along, then kicked it into gear. I just don't know if they've got the gear to kick it into it because everybody's fucking hurt. Like, have a point where like Hollywood Brown's already out for the season, right? Like, it's just no Rashee Rice now for the foreseeable future. Is it going to be sick Xavier Worthy just turning into a super duper star? I wouldn't wildly bet against it, but it's also just like, okay, maybe. And Kelsey's 35. Like, you lose Pacheco for at least another, 4 weeks. It's just a little bit of a bridge too far.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm over doubting KC, right? They've done it to us time and time again, where they'd be a slow start or they're just scraping through and then get hot at the right time and just they find that nugget. I mean, Kareem Hunt might be that one, right? Like he was a lead rusher. He was a really awesome 1-2 punch with Nick Chubb, and then he kind of had a couple of years in the wilderness. So he'll have some time, some tread left on the tires. Maybe he's the guy.
He was also cooked 2 years ago. I don't know. So
he had a couple of years rest, mate. Maybe he's.
I love it. Glass half full. They play the Saints this week at home, and then they play the Niners in San Francisco. At which point you wonder if at least maybe Debo's back for that. So that'd be interesting. Yep. The little Aussie battler of the week. Tory Taylor, mentioned this earlier. Holy smokes, 5 punts. He pinned the Rams inside the 23 times. Absolutely gnarly, but there was the 2 ones late that fucking blew my mind. Watching this over again, I'm like, holy shit. There's a 66-yard bomb that he landed, basically, 6-point game. He's just like, nah, check this out, dickhead. You have to start from basically your own 5. And then the last one did the same thing, sucked to the 8-yard line. It was awesome. So it basically just gave the Bears like a sense of security of just like, right, well, they're going to have to like come all the way down the fucking field to beat us, and they weren't able to. So that was sick. Tory Taylor, he rules. Yeah. Fantasy, Captain Fantasy. Some of the big fantasy scores this week. We got a big Derrick Henry game, obviously. Kenny Walker, 3 touchdowns, smashed it. Nico Collins, just snagging everything. Juzzy Fields, even with the fumble, was still really good, and DeAndre Swift, the top 5. Panic stations, Gaz, for your fantasy teams. Like I got fucking killed this week. I mean, this is it. Like this, too. Just brutal gear because of the injuries at the moment. And then a lot of my stuff was Bijan Robinson, so it sort of came out that he's like listed as like hamstring awareness, kind of is what we call it in AFL. So you have these moments of like fingers crossed, but Tyler Algier was unreal. So now I'm fucking way more worried about Bijan. Drake London had 9.4 points for me this week. Zach Charbonnet's back to reserve, so he was like my fill-in, I think, for like Pacheco or someone. I don't know, but either way, I'm fucked. So
Yep. Yeah, same. Like, I mean, tight end's usually been a position that I'd invested in well and got good points out of in previous years. And to have someone like Kyle Pitts put up 0 this week, you were like, and we're in a PPR league, so it wasn't even like he didn't have or half PPR. So it's not even like it wasn't that he put up yards. He just didn't even have a catch.
well, same goes for Mark. Flip side for me, I've got Mark Andrews. He was targeted once, same as last week. He scored 0 points because he had receptions. And yeah, it is packer up time for Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Anyway, let's do some picks for week 5. We've actually got buys again, Gaz. God damn it, actually comes in great for your team. But at the same
100%.
time, it makes it a little bit more manageable. But at the same time, you're just like, fuck, now I've got to think about buys for fucking fantasy. Come on, man. But we also have a London game. First of the London game. So on Friday, though, we start with Tampa Bay and Atlanta. The Falcons are 1.5 point favorites at home against the Bucs. I actually don't mind the Falcons in this. Whoa, I just made it disappear. That was weird.
I did that. That's all right. Sorry.
I think I'll take Atlanta -1.5. I think with enough actually on a short week, it's a bit tricky, but they've just played at home. They sit there. I think they can beat Tampa Bay. But this is a big game. NFC South, like, holy shit, we've just seen the Falcons win a game without scoring an offensive touchdown. Just imagine if they get an offensive touchdown. Holy shit. So
yeah, look, I'm torn with this one. I've seen good and not so good things from both these teams in the last 2 weeks. I don't know, and I also don't know what to make about the opposition that they were playing in those games. So if you look at Atlanta, based on the Saints in the first 2 weeks versus the Saints in the last 2 weeks have been very different teams. So don't know whether that's a positive for Atlanta. But Tampa Bay was strong. They weren't fancy this week. They were just strong and efficient, and Baker's got them moving around. So I'm just going to – I know they're away. Atlanta plays strong at home. I'm just going to give it to Tampa this time.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun game. That's a really – like, anytime Atlanta do these – primetime ones, my big problem is always going to be, primetime Kirk. So now I'm changing it to Tampa Bay. Simple as that. Literally, that's all I had to do. I had to go, wait a minute, when is this being played? Primetime.
Yep.
Who's playing quarterback? Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
Back up. Baltimore, Jets Mini in London. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I believe this one is. We're both going Minnesota because they're playing the Jets. It's just, you take away the home field advantage. What's the best unit in this game? It's the Minnesota defense.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, though, he fucking loves beating the Vikings. Green Bay vibes there. The 2.5, though, is the one thing that sort of convinced me there. So Minnesota, 2.5 point favorites in London. I think they can win this one. Just don't know. Jets, just their offenses look so discombobulated.
I agree. Yeah, like we thought they took a massive step forward probably earlier than I had expected the previous week, which is why I thought, no, I'll have that covered. And then they just looked, whether I agree, but like as I mentioned before, some of these routes, they just were not on the same page. That's not a weather thing. That's just, they were fucking different wavelengths.
Also,
and Minnesota.
After it's been raining as well, playing in the rain, this is like an AFL stat as well. Like after a game in the rain, the week after, I'm just sticking clear of him. Oh, dead legs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And Minnesota, look, they haven't given us any reason to doubt them, except for a playoff team stormed back against them this week, and they still won. Yep. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep it to Mini.
Sam Dunn revenge game as well.
Yeah, true.
Baltimore Cincy, this is awesome. We've got an ascendant Cincy at home against the Ravens. They're 2.5 point underdogs. I kind of looked at this and like, there's always one weird fucking Cincy Baltimore game each year. And to be honest, like sometimes I'll just go, the road team's just going to win each year. Cool. Sometimes it's like, fuck it, we'll kick their heads in and then turn around and the other thing happens the other way.
Yep.
We're both going Baltimore just because I think that defense is way better than Cincy's at the moment. And I think that offense of Baltimore has proven in all 4 of their games, just the stupid fucking Raiders game is going to be like one of those stupid results we look like, what the fuck is that? Same as Cincy in New England, obviously, but yeah, I still think Baltimore have enough to win that one.
Yeah, they're still, if they're both ascending teams getting back to where they should be, Baltimore's that bit ahead of where Cincy kind of are. So I think that's enough to get Baltimore over the line for me.
Pats hosting Miami.
I've got absolutely nothing to contribute to this game. I basically threw a dartboard at this. I didn't want to pick it, so I'm going to let all of the review go to you, or the prediction.
You took the dartboard off the wall and just threw it out the window, I think. The Pats stink, but I think they can actually, like, what we saw from Miami is just abysmal.
Yeah.
They are just
nothing.
No good. I still worry, like, Miami up there. Like, my a mate of mine, actually, I think will be going to this. I actually went to a Miami-New England game at exactly this time, I want to say 2018, so 6 years ago. I just had the thing pop up. It was the same weekend it was actually the weekend just passed, where I went to all 4 major US sports in the one weekend. It was fucking rad.
Nice.
Where I did the basketball on the Friday night in Philly, watched the AFL Grand Final with a bunch of the Melbourne United dudes on a plane at 6 a.m., still shit-faced, off to the baseball for Red Sox, Yankees, final weekend of the regular season.
Jesus.
And to NHL that night, just still fucking rooted. Watched the Bruins and the Flyers. It's a lot of Philly, actually. It's a bit weird. And then, went to Miami Pats on the Sunday, and Pats kicked the fuck out of them. I think this is like the stupid game that the Pats win. It's like, what do we have for Denver Jets? 10-9? It's 10-9.
Yeah, right.
If not, like, the competency of, like, Tyler Huntley, I have big questions. He and reach for the Skylar Thompson. It's just, I don't know. I can't see the Pats defense just being that bad. This game is going to suck. Anyway, moving on. Yeah. Indy, Jacksonville. I'm going Jacksonville. They've got to get on the board. They're at home. This is the kitchen sink. Fuck it. We're all going to get fired if we don't win this game. So 2.5 points.
We've thought that for 2 fucking weeks, Jim.
I know. Like at home, maybe this is where it all finally kicks in.
Yep.
Especially that Indy defense. Like, talk about 2 teams that are weird divisional rivals that play fucking strange games. These 2 always play weird games. So I'm just the Jags, and I might change. You might get a message from me later in this week. Trevor Lawrence has not changed his hair. Fuck him. We're going Indy. Anyway, there we go. 2.5 point favorites. They win by a field goal.
Yeah, look, another one. Like, what I make of either team that fucking shows up. One day, Indy, like Shane Steichen gets on the board with Joe Flacco, and all of a sudden they look like a half competent team for half a game. And then previously their superstar, the red zone quarterback shows flashes in 4 plays and then looks like dog shit for the other 55 minutes. So you're like, fuck, I don't know what to make of this team. And the same with Jacksonville.
Yep.
Like, we're looking at Bigsby now. We're not looking at Etienne and Brian Thomas Jr. Like, how are we going to get anything consistent out of him? So, fuck, man, anything could happen in this game.
Yeah, Etienne sort of like was in and out of that game, and it's like, is he injured? And there's nothing about him on the injury report or anything.
Yeah. Okay. And Bigsby is the one who busted the big one, right?
Yeah. So the Jags won both the games last year. It was like 37-20 in October this time last year.
Yep.
And it was like they'd only just played like a little bit before that. Like, anyway, it was like they played mid-September, and then in like mid-October, it was like, yeah, I remember that was fucking weird. They played twice within 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever. Buffalo, Houston. We're both going Buffalo, which I thought was a bit weird. I think there's a bounce back spot for them. I think they're a little bit better than we sort of saw from them against Baltimore. I still have big questions about the defense. I mean, obviously, Baltimore just kicked the fuck out of them. And Houston's the sort of team that can really just mess them up like that. But Houston's also 0-3-1 against the spread this year. And like these close sort of games, like I just feel like Buffalo can probably just push them right to the edge, if not win it outright. So, yeah, Buffalo.
I think, look, if I take, once again, this game as an outlier against a very, very strong team, that we're picking to go deep into the playoffs. So, like, Baltimore is no slouch. And then we saw how Houston let a really, really shit team hang around. You're like, you know what? Buffalo's going to be wanting that bounce back game. They're going to want to prove that, hey, what happened last week? That's not the team that we are. And Houston's still finding their feet a little bit. There's just not any consistency, right?
Yeah. Indoors as well. We'll see what happens. Cleveland, Washington. We're both going Washington because fuck the Browns.
I know. It seems obvious now, doesn't it? With the way that they're playing and what they did at Arizona.
Yeah.
And what Cleveland is, stinkers that they're still continuing to put up on the field. Something we haven't mentioned in the episode yet, but the Browns have opened Nick Chubb's practice window. So they got, 28 days, whatever it is, to get him back into practice. Otherwise, he sits out the entire season. So maybe that changes their fortunes a little bit. It'll definitely assist my dynasty team that he's been sitting for a fucking year and a half on injured reserve.
Yeah, he's going to rip it up.
Yeah.
This style.
Yeah.
28 days, just saying.
Usually it takes me about 5 minutes to pick up that reference, but I was on point then.
So we're both going Washington. Chicago, Carolina. We're both going Chicago at 3.5. Yeah. I think the Bears, like that defense against Carolina should be fine. I think so.
I think so.
Chicago. Niners, Arizona. I've gone Arizona in this one because it's a 7.5-point line in San Francisco. You've gone the Niners. I just think Arizona's offense can like Fred Warner just had a fucking field day against the Pats. Arizona's going to be a little bit different. They'll put up a fight. I think it'll be a little bit closer than we think. 7.5 is a little bit too big for me. Like the Niners could easily win this, but yeah, give me the Cards.
Yeah, I don't know whether to make that that they were just jumped by Washington this week, or whether Arizona really doesn't have the horses to run with these teams. But I don't know. San Francisco, potentially Mason settled in, Kittle's back, Debo's back, like Ayuk. Oh, this will be his second game back. Ayuk is sort of less pressure on him. He's not the only guy fucking out there now. I'm just going to give this to San Fran. I know 7.5 is a lot of points, but yeah, I'm okay with San Fran.
Not bad. I just think division matchups are always fucking weird.
Fucky, yeah.
Points. Raiders, Denver. Speaking of division matchups, we've both gone Denver. That's because the Raiders are just sneakily shit.
They're both sneakily shit. And Bo Nix, as we said, 60 yards. But, you know, in decent weather, he can scramble, he can move shit around. There was a lot of injuries on Vegas. Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm just leaning towards the home team. Sneak over the line on this one.
Sean Payton is just like fucking cool. My defense is awesome. Fuck the Raiders.
Yeah.
2.5 as well as the key one. Like this screams like a fucking
field goal. Yep.
Green Bay Rams. We're both gone the Packers. Plus 3.5. The Rams are at home. That feels like with Jordan Love back. I think
feels low, doesn't it?
Fuck out of him. It's weird.
Yeah.
I always had how squirrely that looks, but at the same time, that's just a lot. Like, I feel it's just a weird amount of credence for the Rams at home. Like,
with a bunch of injuries. Like, where are their points coming from? And they got a banged up defense that's taking on, you know, this is, as you said, second week back from Love, and he was improving in the second half. He was kind of finding his feet in the second half of that game. So I think you're right. I think they should kick the shit out of him.
Before this show goes out. So, Giants, Seattle. We've both gone Seattle because the Giants stink, and the Seahawks at home, 5.5-point favorites. It's a bit fucky on a shorter week. The Giants are just bad. Like,
they are bad.
It annoys me the 5.5 because it feels like Seattle do this probably once or twice a year. It's like they should kick the fuck out of this team. And then they either lose outright or it's like a field goal and they've sweated out a win. But the Giants are just not that good.
No.
Going West Coast, nah, give me Seattle. This game is awesome. Dallas, Pittsburgh.
Oh, I'm really torn on this one, Jim.
One of the great kit matchups as well. Speaking of like other times, like to cast the memory back, I think we were in Boston in 2017 with my brother-in-law and a couple of their friends. They were over visiting, and actually, no, they lived in New York with us. And we'd all gone up to Boston with the brother-in-law and his wife visiting. And got to sit around shit-faced on a Sunday night after a massive Saturday, just like, oh, everyone ruined after a big weekend. And this was the Sunday night football game that night, and it was like Zeke just tore them apart. And now it's weird to think that was a million years ago, and Zeke is the quarterback, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys again. You're like, that's probably not good. I'm going Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, fuck. On paper, before this season, we would have given this to Dallas every fucking day, right? Because we said that they haven't replaced holes. They haven't built on what they had, but we still think that they're a double-digit win team. And there's no offense in Pittsburgh, so this could be the year that Tomlin finishes under 500. And yet it just hasn't worked that way, right? It's
just too good.
Chipped and got over the line. The offense does just enough. And against this Dallas defense that's pretty shit. So I don't like this game. I've gone with Dallas because I think that they should win, and on paper, and it's getting pretty dire for these guys now. Like they need to start showing up. So I'm going to go with Dallas for this one.
Yeah, the biggest problem is if Dallas score on like one of their first 2 drives or something like that, Pittsburgh's going, oh god.
Yeah, we've got to put up points.
And that's where it gets squirrely really quickly. And then finally, New Orleans, KC, 5.5 point favorites of the Chiefs. I've gone my beloved Saints.
You've gone that defense. You haven't picked Derek Carr and
it's
your mate Allen.
5.5. And like as I said,
a lot of points for a Saints defense who can just keep things grinded.
And like KC are 3-1 against the spread this year, but it's also been like those spreads have been all pretty low, and 5.5 is still just like, I'll take that in a second. So like these are such like 2 really fun primetime games, Cowboys Steelers and then Saints Chiefs for your Monday and Tuesday mornings. I just think the Saints, after 2 shit losses that they probably could have won both those fucking games, and they got to be like, what the fuck did we just do? How do we lose both those?
Yep.
They come back and win this against KC. If not, cover, make KC sweat it out. In classic KC fashion, they're down 2. They score on the last drive. Boom. They win by 5. Your mate Jim covers the 5.5.
Fair. Oh, look, we've just gone through an entire episode talking about how KC's injured, keep making this happen, but aren't kicking the shit out of anyone, right? And there's something about this Saints team that has a defense that can keep things close. So this definitely could go either way. The Saints continue to regress to not that offense that started out with 90 fucking whatever points in the first 2 games. And then KC come out and make us all look like fuckheads by just going, oh, guess what? Patrick Mahomes, 3 touchdowns to Kelsey, Worthy round the edge, fucking takes the 70 yards down the sidelines, and fuck you cunts, it's 28-0. Oh, yeah, cool. And I wouldn't be surprised by either of those outcomes, Jim.
I like it. Yeah. So we got a few different this week, which is really good. But also, the cool part is, what time do all these games start this week, Gaz?
4 o'clock, Jim.
4 a.m., you little beauty. Love that. Love that for us.
My wife too. She gets really annoyed because the cat's decided that it needs to be fed every time Gaz gets up. And that's been 4 or 5 o'clock to do running. Now, with football starting, that's 3 o'clock, Jim. Which means the cat's running around the house at 3 a.m. going, fucking feed me.
I love it. So far, I picked up, I alluded to this earlier with a bunch of picks different from this week. I went 10 of 16. Gaz went 7. So I picked up 3 into his 6-beer lead. Good. So I'm only down 3 at the moment.
Yep.
29-26 against the spread on a Tuesday is still not bloody bad.
Still not bad, yeah.
Doing all right. There you go, though. That'll do us for this week. 104 episodes of NFL Straya. Very, very cool. Hey, the cool thing is you can watch this on YouTube. That's fun. I mean, producer Gerald's out there just working his bloody knuckles to the bone doing all this for us, so he's an absolute legend. But check us a
you know what he loves, him. I had an off the record. Like, I don't think you realise that I'm in contact with Gerald after this, and I had a really good chat with him. And you know what he's really, really stoked about? When we record these things at 4:30, not in the office, and then send it to him, and he has to carve it up after hours for you, Jim. You're a slave driver, boss. He fucking loves it.
Geraldo had today mostly off anyway. There's nothing.
All right, okay.
So it's like, fucking, if you can do that tonight, that'd be awesome. He's like, yeah, no problems. I'm like, you're a legend. Thank you.
Yeah, no, he's a good bloke.
He does the Lord's work. He does. But you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course TikTok. Lots of TikTok popping off there. That's really fun. You can also see I now do the really brief, all 16 games in 6 minutes. This week it'll only be, 14 games because we've got the 4 teams on the bye. Actually, the byes are the Lions, the Chargers, Philly, and the Titans. So it sucks we don't get the Lions, but I'm happy to not watch the Chargers, the Titans, and Philly for a week. Just saying.
Oh, Jesus, mate.
Your team's not that much fun, Gaz. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, fuck.
Throw the Pats in there as well. They're shit.
Me yelling a lot is fun for you, though, but that's
I do appreciate just the shittiness, but anyway.
Yeah, but just want to touch on the on YouTube, obviously with the studio next door. Whenever you've got a fucking bright idea, you get to jump in and do a bit of a reel, and that's fucking going really well. So you can subscribe to our YouTube. We're picking up like 100 and something people a week, which is great considering we've been running for a month and we're cruising towards 1,000 subscribers, which is fucking cool.
Very nice. It's very neat. It's very fun. So get around that and get around all the other stuff that pops off on the socials. Get around all the other shows that we do as well. We've got NBA Straya, which is back as of yesterday. That'll be a whole bunch of NBA preseason gear. The AFL Today show has been very, very fun. We've actually got a cracking midweek wrap-up of everybody's season and what they need for the trade period before the trade period starts. And then AFLW today, which is really good as well, covering the W. They do a great job. It is very, very entertaining. And then the Cricket Today podcast, the Football Today podcast, hold all tickets. That's about GG's. But yeah, rate, review, star, like, comments. Send us some NRs. Bang, all the DMs are open. Go nuts. And actually, shout out to our man, Social Boy Leo. He does all the gods on the socials too. Big thanks go to House Hats for the intro and outro song. Go listen to their album, and that is it. Anything else? You've got to plug your marathon.
Yeah, dude. That's next week. Me and 40,000 of my friends, apparently, Jim. Saw the stats today. 40,000 people doing the Melbourne Marathon. I'll put up a link for the donation thing if you are that way inclined. Our man, like there was ever any fucking doubt, Jim. Our man Matty O, he donated to me today, and it was a weird amount, and he sent me a message straight away going, I needed to get you to that $1,000 target. So he stuck it in. Good old fucking Matty-O.
That's good. That's right.
1 week to go, and then people will be glad that I'll stop talking about fucking running till the next one.
I haven't done that, so I'll do that this week. And
nice.
Try to be nice and generous for you. But there you go. Good stuff. Go check out Gaz's marathon page. It's all for the kids. That's really
cool. Berry Street. Less fortunate kids than us.
Good stuff. All right, that'll do us for this week. You can catch us on the socials throughout the week. Either way, we'll catch you next week. Catch you in a bit, you dickheads.
See yous.
Later, hosen.